Welcome back to the shop. So we're going to go ahead and get these block hugger headers pulled off the 71 C-10 here. And we've got our full-length Hedmans ready to go. Now I did go over the flanges on these with a file and just a flap wheel to even things out a bit. We're going to be using the Remplex gaskets, but I like to try and get everything as square as I can. It just makes things seal up that much better. I know a lot of guys don't like running headers. They always complain about leaks, but I've never had a set leak on me. It just takes a little bit of prep work. Make sure your flanges are good. Remplex gaskets, standard bolts, and you'll never have a problem. And you might ask why we're going through the trouble of swapping these out. I mean, headers are headers, but I don't know why they would have put these block huggers on here. They're typically used on hot rods and stuff with tight clearance. We've got a ton of clearance down there, so no reason not to run the full lengths. They've always been my preference, even if I have to modify to make them work. They just sound that much better, flow that much better. And I got a pretty good deal on these. We should be able to sell those block huggers for what we paid, and just be the cost of gaskets, which this one looks like it's just got some cheap, possibly half decent gaskets in there, but we'll get them swapped out. And the exhaust down below here is pretty hacked together. It looks like it was welded up with a stick welder, and it's just kind of cobbled together. So it's currently 2 1/4 inch. We're gonna run 2 1/2 the whole way. Should sound better and free up a few extra ponies. And I'm sure somebody will chime in the comments that the engines like a little bit of back pressure and you shouldn't go too big of a pipe. You're gonna burn your exhaust valves and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's not true. That's been proven time and time again. Go as big as you like. Bigger pipes impress the ladies anyways. So let's get after it. So not only are these block huggers, they're also motor mount huggers. Holy moly, that's tight in there. Having a bit of a tough time getting that nut and bolt. I'm gonna fight it a little bit more. Then I might just cut the pipe here and bolt the header and drop it out. These pipes are pretty well scrap anyways, but we'll see what we can do. All right, well that wasn't too bad. I managed to get all those bolts out of there. I'm actually kind of surprised that wasn't leaking because 2 out of 3 were loose. So we'll pop up top there, get the bolts out, we should be able to yank that header out and see what we got. So like I said, I have no idea why this truck has block huggers. It's certainly not for spark plug clearance because it actually kind of sucks on these. That back one there, I can't even actually get the spark plug boot off right now, it's so tight. And the 2 rears I've typically, especially on the passenger side, I've had to reach up underneath with a wrench and break them free that way because there's not enough room to get a socket in there. So I'm betting the long tubes won't be much better in that regard, but if they're not, I may end up going with some Excel header plugs. They're a little bit shorter, and I've heard mixed reviews on those, but it is a bit of a hassle, and I like to change the plugs out on this thing every year just because it doesn't get driven all that much, and they do get a little bit fouled up. God damn it. I sprung a leak. It's not even my time of the month. You know what I always say, if you're not bleeding, you're not working hard enough. Spark plug boot off of there. There we go. Damn dipstick's in the way. There we go. All right, well that wasn't too bad. I was just thinking this is the first time I've ever removed headers to install headers. Usually I'm pulling exhaust manifolds, and you all know what a nightmare that is, so this is easy stuff. We'll do a test fit anyways. Get this exhaust hacked out of the way, get the other side pulled out. Before we go poking and prodding around the starter there with wrenches, go ahead and disconnect the battery. Safety first. So I've watched more than one person weld their wrench to terminal. One was an electrician too. Ah, it's only 12 volts. 12 volts DC. She'll do some damage. This side here looks about as fun, but we should be able to wiggle ourselves in there. All right, there we go. That was out too. On the back corner there was a bit of a struggle, but she's out. You can probably see a little better on this back one here. It is tight getting this boot off of here. And surprisingly enough, I haven't melted any of these. Run her pretty hard from time to time, but just the cheap street fire wires, they've held up pretty good. These front ones here are equally as tight. Oh, the back ones are loose. Oh man, I'm really leaking now. Just needed more tape, that's all. Good to go. I've heard lots of guys say gotta use locking header bolts, otherwise they'll back off. I've never had an issue with any of mine backing off. I don't know, maybe some applications. But I find the Remflex gaskets too, they crush down quite a bit. They hold a bit of tension on, so maybe that helps. But I usually put anti-seize on all my bolts too, so if they were gonna back out, they would, but it's never been a problem for me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, I don't know. Certainly wouldn't want to replace a collector gasket on these ones, because that's an absolute nightmare down there. Be glad to get rid of these. But based on my luck with this truck, this is probably about the time I'll find out there was a reason these were on here. And then we'll end up having to put the stupid things back on. We will cross our fingers and hope that's not the case. And again, everything looks pretty good there. I'm gonna go ahead and swap this positive cable out. And I may end up fabbing up a little heat shield for that starter, or see if I can find one for a decent price, just to give it a little extra chance. And you can see them there side by side for comparison. This one's there should flow a little bit better. All right, so I'm just gonna go through and prep the heads. Just using my gasket scraper. Get all the old residue off of there. And then as per standard practice around here, I'll go through, chase all the bolt holes, just to clean up all the gunk that's in there and make installation a lot easier. See, there's a bit of crap in there. One problem you'll typically run into is your tap handle will be too big. And of course, as per usual around here, we've only got normal and big. And of course, the bigger one's the black one. Who says tool manufacturers don't have a sense of humor? Of course, your tap kit comes with these little handles here, but of course, even with lube, that ain't going in there. So what you can do is grab yourself a 1/4 inch socket, 12 point. And that'll fit your 3/8 tap. You can buy special sockets with the square drive on them, but I've always just used a 12 point. Works fairly well. I've just got it on a nut driver handle. And you can run it in that way. And if you got an even tighter spot like back here, or wants to hit the steering column, just grab a small ratchet, and you can drive it in that way as well. This also helps if you need a little bit more torque. Just be careful with taps, you don't want to break them off, but works quite well. So I'm going to go through, chase the rest of these. We'll be ready to do a test fit after we drop all that crap out of the way. All right, well, they're in there. Just got a couple bolts holding them for now. I just want to mock these up, make sure everything's going to fit before we get too carried away. They're a bit of a squeeze to get them in there, but they do go in from below. Passenger side was a hassle. This one here wasn't too bad. It's probably tough to tell on camera here, but I did have to jack it up pretty good to be able to get them up and in there. Driver's side, you don't have to go too high. Probably about 16 inches will get you there. For the passenger, I've got it where the bottom of the front bumper there is 22 inches off the ground. It was just enough to squeeze them up in there. And if I had a lift, it'd be a whole heck of a lot easier. But trick with the passenger side, if you're going to do these on a C-10, is you got to get this front tube up and over the frame rail as soon as you can. Otherwise, there's just not enough room to roll it in and around. So start it from down below, get that up and over the frame rail, and you can kind of wiggle and get it in there. Like I said, it's a tight fit, but once they're in there, it's actually more clearance than the block hookers. Lots of room around the motor mounts. I think plugs are going to be okay. The third one back on each one's going to be a bit of a challenge, but there should be enough room. That's the price you pay for having headers, no matter what style they are. It's usually a bit of a bugger to do plugs. So I'm going to drop this back down for now. We can loosely bolt everything in, make sure we can get our plugs in there. And I will go grab some new plugs and gaskets and we can start building some exhaust. And hopefully whatever we build will be a little nicer than what was on there. Like I mentioned before, it was pretty cobbled together, the scabbed together pieces. And I'm not sure if they used a stick welder or if they used MIG and forgot to turn the gas on, but she's pretty rough. And as you can see, we did have quite a few leaks. I think this was built on the truck, and whatever they couldn't get to, they just left. Hopefully we can build something a little nicer than that. We're just gonna keep it simple, a couple straight pipes. I am gonna add an H pipe again, probably right underneath the trans cross member if we can squeeze it in there. But that should be fairly simple. And then these are the Flowmaster Super 44s that came off of it. These are 2 1/4 inch, which we just added adapters to if you ever watched that video. So I'm just gonna cut these off. Sell these because I'm gonna go 2 1/2 inch. And I think I'm leaning towards the thrush welded. I think we're gonna give those a go. We'll just use some slip fit band clamps. And then if we decide we wanna go back to Flowmaster, we will. I am a diehard Flowmaster guy, but I don't know. I wanna try something different. And if the thrush don't sound good, then we'll probably go some original 40s. Just really not happy with these Super Series. They're just not the tone I was looking for. They don't have that tinny sound that the Flowmasters are known for. It's, I don't know. It's muffled, which is ironic for a muffler, but just doesn't have that echoey sound. So we'll sell these. Should be able to get a few bucks for them. They've only got 1,000 kilometers on them and still in good shape. We'll give them a fresh coat of satin black before we sell them. All right, so we got everything mocked up the way it should be. Plug wires and plugs aren't actually bad. There's quite a bit of clearance here. The only one that's a problem is the one I suspected is this one right here. This wire kind of wants to fall right against there. It's tough to see on camera here, but it's quite tight against this back edge of the tube there. So I might have to dimple this tube. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do there yet. So we'll figure that out. I really don't want to go header plugs for only that one there. I'd rather stick with the factory plugs. They're a little more reliable. Passenger side, same thing. Everything looks good. Plugs will actually be easier to get to. Third one back here is tight, but I don't think I'll have to dimple that one at all. And the fourth one there is actually accessible now, which it wasn't before. And if you don't have some of these style spark plug wrenches, go get some. These are Gear Wrench. Not sponsored by them at all. I do have some of their stuff, these and the ratcheting wrenches. But they've got these wobble extensions built in that don't come off. And they're also magnetic inside, which helps hold the plug in there. And the nice thing of that is the rubber boot ones, sometimes they really get stuck on there. You have a heck of a time getting them back out. But this one here is perfect for that third and fourth plug on the back. Makes it easy to get to, easy to get out. And it's nice that this is attached on there because you quite often have that too. Get your plug installed, go to pull your extension, and socket stays stuck to the plug, and it's a bit of a hassle getting it out. Those are worthwhile investment. Now we are going to have to reroute the starter cables, which I was planning to do anyways. Never been happy with the way they were run. So I'm actually going to come on the inside and around, keep everything tucked in behind. And the ones that come down, we'll have to reroute those as well, but that's fairly simple. The other issue we have, if you can see it down there, don't know if it'll focus, but there's a little hard line right there, and it's up against the tubes as well. I'm not actually sure what that's for. It's kind of an odd routing, and I don't know if that's factory. I'm hoping that it's the return line for the fuel pump, which this one doesn't have hooked up anymore. And if that's the case, we'd just be able to bypass that. If it's a brake line, which I don't think it is because it's too big for that, we'll just have to redo some lines. And the transmission cooler lines, which are back there as well, they're also quite tight, so we'll probably just have to rebend them, move them out of the way. If not, we'll bend some new lines. But again, not too big of a deal. We can make that happen. And that's fairly typical for this truck. Every time we go to do something, it turns into multiple projects, but we got all winter and it's snowing like a bugger outside anyway, so we'll stay in the shop. So I think that's all for today. I'm gonna get tidied up here and regroup, go get some gaskets and some longer header bolts. These ones are quite short. They're only 3/4 inch. And with Remflex gaskets, they're quite thick when they first go on, so to make life easier, I'll go get some 1-inch bolts just to give it a little extra. We'll go ahead, get these block huggers cleaned up, get those mufflers cut off the original pipes. We'll get that stuff sold and we'll scrap that piece of crap. And then hopefully next time we'll have these all bolted up and we can fire her up and do the mandatory open headers. So if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to click the button down below. Keep an eye out for the next video. So as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.